You're listening to the Live Out Loud podcast with River Wynn and Michelle Flamer.
Hi, River.
Hi, Michelle.
So there's lots to get into. Um,
Yes,
but first I just want to say, are you having a nice weekend?
I am. I'm having a great weekend. Last night I hosted my second, what I call a witch and switch, where I get together fellow local women and we have snacks and beverages at my house, and they bring clothing items and tarot cards they don't want to use anymore, crystals, whatever it may be, and we swapped them, and it's really fun. It's a really fun thing to do. And so I did my second one last night, and we just had a great time. And several people came who hadn't come before, and it was just like nice for new people to meet each other and have some community building. It was really great.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
um let's see. I have the kid this week. And so we had a very spacious, relaxing day yesterday. I found myself cooking and meal prepping a little bit and which was just really nice. And we hung out and watched, oh my God, we finished the second season of Squid Game 2 on
I've
Netflix.
never I've never watched that.
There's so much blood and gore,
Is
but we
there
both
really?
yeah, but we both really enjoy it all. Like it was I'm looking over at her and she's just riveted. And so anyways, we totally we find things like different shows to enjoy and when we're hanging out together and then today waking up realizing that tomorrow is it's a new era once again, but it's Trump 2.0 and worse than ever, I think. And there's so many unknowns and so many things going on with, the government right now that I have no idea what we're walking into. Do you?
It's a shit show
Yeah,
is what it is.
exactly.
And last night, you know how Facebook Memories pops up, right?
Yep.
Yesterday, a Facebook memory popped up from 8 years ago when he was first going into, his first term.
Yep.
And I had written something to the effect of like, I long for a day when the incoming president will be a honorable, classy, well-educated, well-spoken person. Like, and I had this whole post and I was like, huh, if you told me 8 years ago that we would have Trump again,
I just can't
I would
even.
I would have been like, no way in hell will that happen again.
It's
And yet
crazy.
here we are.
Here we are.
And we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. I know that for me, it feels a little bit heavy today, where I'm like, tomorrow, by the time the podcast comes out on Wednesday, he will be in office. But today, the day prior to him taking office, it just feels heavy, like that day before the storm hits, where you're like, okay, it's coming. I can't do anything about it. Buckle
I
up.
know.
You
Batten
know?
down the hatches, right?
Yeah. Yes. So.
Well, it's interesting because this whole meta thing is happening, right?
Yeah.
And like everybody is getting off and it's WhatsApp, it's Facebook, it's Instagram. There's a few others which actually I really didn't use, so it was fine. TikTok shut itself down last night based
Yeah.
on the
Yep.
ban. What was and the messaging was weird, was really interesting, right?
I don't have TikTok because somehow I got myself banned from TikTok
Mm-hmm.
months ago. And so my friends who were over last night for my witch and switch they were all, anticipating the shutdown, and so they kept checking and then talking about it, and they showed me the message that came up when it did shut down, and I just
Mm-hmm.
started laughing because I was like, does anybody else not see this as like a huge problem, that it's like, hey, TikTok is shut down, but thankfully, luckily, Donald Trump, and I'm like, does anybody else not see this as like a massive red flag? Like,
I
this is
know.
this is
It
not
was,
good.
it was such interesting messaging. And I sent it off to several friends, and each of them had a very unique response to it. Like
Ooh.
one was just like, who gives a fuck about this? Like who cares about DT being involved in any of this? Like who cares? And then one was just really like, this is I'm mourning some of my business that I get from this. And
Mm-hmm.
and then another person was like, I don't think they understood what the meaning of it was. I go, this is the state of where we are right now, that a huge app, a very popular app. I don't know, what is it? 17 million, people on this app. I don't even remember the,
Users.
yeah, users.
I don't know the numbers, but I do
Yeah,
know that TikTok is huge.
yeah.
I never really got into TikTok that much. I had a
Hmm.
profile. I posted on it like pretty sparingly. Like Instagram has always been my spot, but
Me too, because I just
I don't
like
know.
the
There's something about
imagery.
Instagram. I think for me, I think it's being a photographer where I like platforms that are more image based versus
Me
video
too.
based,
Me
because
too.
I'm a photographer and I've used Instagram from the start for that purpose. So
Me
it
too.
was kind of hard for me to like mentally make the shift into, in order for people to see your content, you have to create videos. And I'm really not that video person. Like I make some reels and I do some live videos occasionally. Like I use my stories on Instagram a lot, but like TikTok just never really fully resonated for me as a social media
Mhm.
platform. So I kind of have a disconnect from what's happening with it because I'm just like, it's just whatever, not a big deal. But I think for a
And
lot of people, it really has been a huge basis for how they connect and they build community. And so I can understand that. But I'm also kind of in the space of like, but people have been saying for years, you shouldn't build your business on social media. And I'll be the first person to tell you that as a photographer. Like, I only get like a tiny fraction of my business from my social media. Like,
yeah,
everything else is word of mouth and having a website. Like,
totally.
I still to this day have people who reach out to me for photography via my website because they happened to see a blog of mine that I had keyword something that they
Yeah.
were searching for. And so I get why people are so upset about it. I just personally, it doesn't impact me like that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I was a very late, as you know, like a
Yeah.
very late adapter to TikTok. Like all my
Yeah.
like a ton of the later in life lesbians, they were like lesbian TikTok was their jam. Like that's kind of their catalyst in helping
Which
them.
makes sense. It's
Yeah.
community. Yeah.
Yeah, community, exactly. And so at the end of the day, I was totally fine with it deleting. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I was fine. So I logged out and it went off, and it was like, okay, hasta la vista, dude. And in fact, it really, just all of this right now is like, c- it's a mental toll. Like, I was realizing in this last week, I was becoming more and more aware of the habitual place of social media for my own personal life.
Hmm.
And I'm watching a show that I actually rather enjoy, right? Like I'm just hanging out watching a show, and I'm also on my phone. And guess what? It's almost like when I learned to reread again after finding out that I was dyslexic, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, because I had to read a certain way and I had to find a way to connect what I'm reading and how I am taking in that information in order for me to write a report on it when I was a kid, or
Hmm.
things. I was also like 16 when I found out I was dyslexic, so I had to relearn a few tricks there. And I was noticing my brain while I'm watching a show, and then I'm scrolling and reading things while the TV was on. Honestly, I don't get overwhelmed very easily, but the more and more I am on the path of healing and the path of my self journey, my, in this spiritual place that I love being in, I was like, I didn't know what happened in the show. Now I really didn't pay attention to what maybe I wanted to read on, Jillian Turecki or like people that I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy following that actually give me like little micro learnings through.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the way that I curated my Instagram feed was like, micro learnings and things like that. But having all of it coming at me, I literally I wasn't retaining anything. And it was
Mm-hmm.
really like, I felt actually overwhelmed at times. And I really was like I would catch my breath. Like I was like, this is just too much for me. It's just, I
Well,
miss,
I think that when you're doing that, I don't think people realize this, and like obviously I'm not a scientist, but like I feel like that kind of interaction with screen and social media, like at the same time, you have different screens going and you're like scrolling all the things and you're not focused in. It's like something about that is activating of your nervous system.
yes.
Like it's a little bit of fight or flight response in that, like a little bit. Like you're a little activated when that
Yep.
happens, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and on and on some apps, like I only talked to a few people on them, and I was like, why am I even here? So everything I showed you my phone, like I only have LinkedIn, I only have Pinterest, which absolutely is like vision boarding and gives
Mm-hmm.
me joy. And I'm like find myself really present in that space because I'm like,
Mm.
ooh, I want to save a few things because, I'm putting 2025 goals together or there's like a purpose to it. I also, which is on the front of is I downloaded because I saw it. I mean, beyond podcasts, and Marco Polo to stay in touch with my friends who are
Mm-hmm.
far, and Meetup, which I really enjoy. Again, that's more community stuff
Mm,
and not
mm-hmm.
social media. So, and LinkedIn is where I live and breathe for work. So I'm not
Yeah.
dumping, and it literally does not give me any anxiety whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I downloaded the app Headway. I had kept
Mm.
seeing ads on it, like because of probably the growth-minded people that I follow and
Yeah.
that I talk about. And so it kept coming up. I'm talking for like a couple of years. And I was like, whatever, like, and so I actually downloaded that. And today on my walk, I did some micro learning and listened to some
Hmm.
audiobooks that were suggested for me based on the prompts that I clicked that I was interested in learning, like parenting, um, growth, relationships, and I think I can't remember the last thing, but I clicked a few of those things, and so then it kind of curates like what your micro,
Yeah.
but you can still choose what you feel like listening to. And they're
Cool.
14 minutes long. So on my walk today, I listened to a few and then finished a podcast also. But man, I really enjoyed that. That's really fun. Mr. Whiskers is making his appearance,
Mr.
of course, no
Whiskers
matter
just
what.
walked right in front of the screen. Oh my goodness, cat. And he
We were both
I'm
waiting.
looking at his back leg and I'm like, "Oh, he has a giant matted piece of hair that needs to come off of his leg."
Well, there you go. Then that's why he did it. He was just letting
That's
me
he's like,
know.
"Mom, look at my fur. I need help. I can't reach that spot."
That's cute. He's
But
such
your
a
point with all of that was that you're taking a break from most of
heck
social
yeah.
media right now.
Yeah, like I'm really
Yeah.
taking a nice break because it's just like, and the good thing about a detox, like I don't want anyone to think like, whoa, she's never coming back. Like it's a
No.
detox. It doesn't mean I'm completely abandoning, social media forever. It's just really about taking these intentional breaks. And I'm just going to see like all this, like this whole thing is going around for starting today for a week. And so I'm going to see how I feel. Next week's my birthday, and I love Facebook birthdays, but so if I feel like it, I might pop in on that day. But if not, and then I just might keep going. I don't know. I like biohacking, this kind of stuff for me.
As you were talking about that, I was just thinking back to my youth, like pre-social media. We were talking last night at my gathering about MySpace and like how much time and energy we put into MySpace and like curating our MySpace profiles and
Totally.
you know, all of us as teenagers in the MySpace era, we were using HTML coding and to make our create our spaces and all of that. And um, but just really thinking about like what would it be like to intentionally create life that was virtually free, like not having a virtual community. I wonder about that often because last year, as you know, and I talked about here on the podcast, I took a month off of social media entirely. I wasn't
That seemed
on
like it went by like that
any social
too.
media. And that was quite frankly the best month of my year. And I actually made the most money that year being off of social media, ironically. And I did the most connecting, like in-person connecting I had done all year. And it
Mm-hmm.
was so intentional. I had to go be with people, do
Mm-hmm.
coffee, do in-person things. And it freed up so much of my time. And I still use social media. I think Instagram, I'm really just pretty much on Instagram. Like I'm on Facebook and I use it a little bit, but I mostly am on Instagram.
Yeah.
But just even with everything that's going on, just shifting my kind of my approach to being like, well, I just want to connect more in person.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? Like last night at this gathering I had, I mentioned I was like, I love someone else mentioned they were like, you're so great at hosting. Like you're a great host. And I was like, I love doing it. I love facilitating and hosting. And in college, my roommate and I used to host weekly dinners where we had different like themes. We'd have like Moroccan dinner theme and like all these different themes and board game nights. And I mentioned that to the friend who had said, hey, you're a great host. And I was like, I'd love to host maybe some board game nights or different events. And they're like, please do, because we need community. Every single person who came last night was like, we needed this so badly. We needed to
You should create
connect with other human beings.
You should create with through Meetup, a women's Legrand group on Meetup and then text everybody like the link to that so that everybody can be in one spot and you're not having to like, because of your ADHD, you can just put it on there like, hey, on this date, I'm going to do this. And then on this date, and just maybe do 2 dates out, even if it's one spot.
I use Facebook events
Okay.
because I want it to be like this is gonna sound terrible, but also I live in a very red county, and I want to know that the events that I create for fellow women locally are also a safe space for women. And so I want people coming to my event who are more like-minded. Um, it may not be a very safe space for people who are coming, who are, let's just say, more LGBTQ and more like, to come to a space where it's like a free for all. Anybody who sees it can come. And they have very conflicting beliefs right now politically.
Hmm.
It may not be a safe space. So that's something I kind of have to keep in mind here. So I don't want to put it like on a public forum where anybody can see it and come and join. It's like I open it up to my friends and friends of my friends.
That's cool.
People that I'm like, or even acquaintances. If you're my friend on my Facebook, we're probably an acquaintance in some way, shape, or form, and you're probably a safe person to come be in
Yeah.
this space in this circle that I'm curating.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean I mean that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I like Meetup, you can say no or yes to somebody too. I mean, it's not
I've
just a
never I've
girl.
never used it. I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah.
but
No,
I'm also like I don't want to add more apps. Like I don't want to
that's
add
true.
more, as we're talking about, taking time away and taking
That's
detoxes.
right.
I'm always like, how can I do less?
With yeah, with what you have in that sense, or
Yeah.
like achieve what you need to achieve within only a few apps, applications or whatnot.
Yes.
I know I
Yes.
totally get that. I mean, I just think I'm just excited. Like I have a book that it's unfinished. I'm like, I think I have time now and hopefully in the next week, kind of creating more space around that I can start writing again and
Mm.
dig into that. I still really love the podcast and really appreciate that. And the other part of it, remember when we were chatting, I think a few weeks ago around dreaming big is my word for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking about the space and the property that we want to create, and having that space of land
Mm-hmm.
and what's really interesting is all of that for me at some point, like for my retirement plan and all that is like none of it included social media in my mind, which was
Yeah.
it's built on connection. Like the reason why I want you to live there and the reason why I want Christy, like whoever, like really cool aligned women who want to like either bring their RV up there for a couple of months or create or build a tiny house because they have like the space is there and they don't have to pay anything for land because I'm just like, yeah, put it over there. You have to just pay
Mm-hmm.
for your electricity and water use or whatever. And all of it was based on not needing it. And if it's a retreat center, I can hire somebody to do the social media for that.
Yep.
So again, it's like it's none of that. It has like social media in my plan of attack for like being
Mm-hmm.
successful for like a new chapter, whether it's open up a little coffee shop or a farm stand or something that really aligns with, kind of what that whole property looks like. But I just was thinking about it this morning in the dark. I was like, wow, the life that I'm trying to create, my retired life, my second half, or the last third of my life, really, at that point, is really social media free and built on connection.
Yeah, while you were saying that, I was just ADHD, was
Yeah.
happening. And I was just thinking about how I think in this next 4 years of a Trump presidency, I think one of the greatest acts of resistance we're going to be able to do is to create flourishing community outside of social media because social media is largely owned by white men
Yep.
who
Very wealthy
who
white men.
very wealthy white men whose money is in Trump's pocket and our political system's pocket. And you know how they say there should be a separation of church and state. Well, I think there should be a separation of social media and state. There should be a separation of news and state, and yet there's not. And there's
No,
not a separation of religion and state, and that's concerning to me. Like I'm gonna
but
still
then
use social media, but I also think that one of the greatest acts of resistance we can do is to create flourishing lives and community outside of social media, especially in the next 4 years.
yep. I mean, I said, "Hey, I'm just taking a break. If you have my cell phone number, you can text me." You know what I mean? Like anybody who is in my grouping of friends or LinkedIn or whatever, I mean, most people can easily reach out to me. It's not even about that. It's more about the fact, and again, it's free will. We all have free will. So it's okay what anyone else wants to do. I have zero judgment because everybody needs to choose and do what they want to do for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just found myself lately not wanting to support, like you said, a bunch of wealthy white men. And for me, it also is just more about taking ownership over creating the life that I really want to have and value. And honestly, my front row, I talk to all of you guys with Marco Polo. I mean, we send each other memes and stuff, but I mean, I can Google those. I mean, if I really want to send you guys funny stuff or if something comes across my desk or whatnot. But really, it's again, I realize like even by me peppering you guys, I'm still not, I'm putting whatever I'm thinking into your feed and it's not free will at that point. I mean, you have free will to look or not what I've sent you
Mm-hmm.
to engage, but I'm like, what does this next 24 hours even feel like with just being back in my own head? Like only hearing my own thoughts again.
Having done it, I think that it's going to give you so much more time with yourself. And I
Yeah.
think for a lot of, I'm just going to say for myself,
Hmm.
I found that I realized the more time I had with myself, the more uncomfortable I was with myself because social media was such a great distracting tool because what we always do that every time we sit down, we pick up our phone and we start scrolling, right? We're riding the bus to work, we're scrolling. We're at the grocery store and we're scrolling in the checkout line. We're so focused in on our
So
phones all the time
habitual.
that when you intentionally step away from that, you realize that there's so much life happening around you, so much. and you get so much more present. That's what I found in that month. I took my social media detox. I was so much more present, and I
Hmm.
had so much more time to do things.
Yeah.
And it really gave me perspective around my time use.
I mean, I have done many detoxes before, but nothing with the intention of a week or longer. Like a week, I've done like a lot of times. Like I've just taken a week off and it's no big deal. I'm really looking at this as a longer break because I like intermittent fasting. Like the good shit happens the longer you do it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I'm looking forward to like feeling that spacious, ness with instead of scrolling, I have two books that I'm reading right now, and I'm planning a fun trip to Ireland with Caden. We went through some of that today, and we're both
Mm-hmm.
like really excited for that trip. And so, yeah, there's just a lot to look forward to that doesn't involve social media. And anybody important in my life has my cell phone. So it's not,
Yeah.
it's not anything else that has to be done. It's like easy peasy.
Yeah. I think you'll find too. I mean, I did that. It was so nice to connect more with my friends too because I had more time.
Well, and you're not seeing what they're doing, so you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I kind of know what's up with them. It does feel more like it feels lovely, like the layers can go
Intentional.
deeper and intentional, of course, because I can be
Yeah.
like, what have you been doing lately? That
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And I have other friends who have texted me recently saying that they've gotten off and they too are like, oh my God, just bringing back the simple things. Like one of my friends, and it's kind of like what you and I were talking about around um, bringing back things that bring you joy from your childhood. Remember, we were talking on the
Mm-hmm.
phone while I was on the freeway
Yep.
I think I was taking Cooper to Chrissy's, right, to
Yeah.
drop him off. And my friend said, "Oh my God, I'm listening to an old Madonna album that gave me so much joy back in the day." And I think that's what's happening. It's like we're connecting with our music and we're connecting because I love technology, River. I love it. I love AI. I'm an early adapter of AI. Like I really lean into all technology. I just feel like social media, I think we all just have to check ourselves from time to time. Not that I'm judging anybody, but I just think everybody needs to just check themselves and ensure that this is good for their well-being and not,
Yes. I like
yeah,
that you made that point because I like social media because I have made so many new friends and connections via social media. It's been a lifeline for me. I have people even now, like in the last couple of days, I've had two women reach out to me on Instagram and say, "Hey, I just told my spouse I want a divorce. Do
wow.
you have any time and space to talk about this?" And I'm like, "Yes, let's meet up and go for a walk. Do you need a hug? Like, what do you need? Like, I know how this feels. How are you doing?" And like, there's something about social media that is just so great about creating community in that way.
Yeah.
But the point you made of like your well-being, I think that is critical because it would also be so easy for me to just spend all my time on social media talking to women who are going through divorce to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
I'm not taking care of my home. I haven't eaten lunch. Like, my well-being
Yes.
could easily go to the back burner with this like feeling of not obligation is not the right word, but like feeling like I need to like connect with people and be there for them and all of that. And so for me, I constantly have to check myself on how I'm using social media
Yep.
because if I don't have boundaries,
Yeah.
I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I really like the apps because you can delete them from your home page. You don't have to get rid of them completely. I mean, you can just delete them from your home page and when you're ready, you just go in and, you bring it back to life in a sense. But
Yeah.
I feel really good about this decision and yeah, I'm looking forward to actually getting through books and taking time like did housework and just getting things accomplished in like a timely manner because I'm not filling in the time in between my dead time. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what I've really lost sight of is meditation and like that practice. I realize that I've really like letting that go. So filling in with that now, I'm excited to see what sort of shifts, and I'll be happy to share it here on the podcast, like while I'm going through it. And again, I don't know how long this will last, but yeah, I'm gonna just take advantage of it while I'm in the space to do so.
I think that looking into the next 4 years, it's it's going to be very important that we do a lot of personal joy building.
Yeah, I love
I think
that.
really,
Joy building.
really right now, like I think a big thing about stepping away from social media or checking in with how you're using social media is like, how are you creating joy in your life? Are you
Yeah,
just so focused in on all the doom and gloom that's happening that you're not even taking a moment to appreciate your life and have
yeah.
joy? So the joy building is going to be really important, I think, in the next 4 years.
I couldn't agree more. And if joy building looks like for you connection, reach out to your friends, right? Like reach back out to some of those friends that you're like, I really feel good in their presence. I really feel like that's a soft place to land. Because today I was Marco Poloing with Samantha, right? Samantha Fox. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's so funny because I was like, oh, maybe I'll go home and journal after my walk. And then I thought, no, I realized that my journal has been talking out loud, like leaving you messages and downloading stuff and leaving messages with my other friends, on Marco Polo, and how it really is like a living journal because we're verbally processing what I would typically write in my journal. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just such safe spaces to like connect with you
Yeah.
guys and download stuff. Like even our pre-chat is like a verbal journal. Because I'm like, what do you do? This is what I'm feeling. This is how I'm going to kind of approach it. This is what, and
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, no wonder I'm not going to my journal. I have really safe people to like say those things that I would normally put in my journal. My journal used to be that place that because I didn't have the space at that time, or even I didn't really put it as a front facing focus in my life. And now
Yeah.
that I have these deep friendships, it's just all making so much more sense.
Yeah. Yep. So more joy building,
Joy
more
building, I like
friendships,
it.
more connection.
I love it. Well, friend,
Yeah.
I hope you have a fantastic walk and talk with a friend later. And
Literally going to walk and talk with a friend.
I love that. I mean, those are my favorites. They really are. So
Yeah.
love you. And I mean, I'm excited for these pieces. And I think, like you said, inserting joy within the next 4 years is going to be important. And, I've wrote more things in my jar, my positivity jar, adding more things there. I'm asking Kaden to also hopefully put some things in. And that's what we're rolling. That's what we're
Yep.
doing.
That's what we're doing. I love
All
it.
right.
Love you.
Love you. Thanks, Pod Squad. Appreciate you being on this journey always. It's been and it's just so enjoyable watching our numbers grow and adding more people. So really appreciate whoever is listening. And if you guys, it fills your cup, and again, free will, please share and subscribe as River and sweet daughter tell us at the end of every episode. So.
I love her voice. Every time I
It's
listen to our podcast, I hear her voice at the end. I'm like, I just love that.
it's the cutest ever. So, anyways, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode today, be sure to subscribe and share because what do we say, baby?
Sharing is caring.